All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this check-in call. With the specific conversation around school-based mentoring during COVID-19 and the environment we're in. And so, just to kick us off, we wanted just to kind of start with a couple questions, but we'll do them individually. So the first one is kind of, how would you describe the current status of your program? If you're logged in via the Teams, you can put it in the chat. If you want to find a fun GIF to describe the current status of kind of where you're at with the programming, you can go ahead and select one of those. But just we kind of want to do a general check-in. You can also go ahead and unmute yourself and share it over the audio as well. So, but what is the current status of your program today? So we'll pause and let those come in here. And I can maybe share just a little bit from the IMP side, and then Mary, please add into what you would say the current status of our program from Iowa Mentoring Partnership is. I think we're helping and trying to support maintaining, these relationships in the state where, our status, we can be flexible or how we the status of kind of our work.
So we would just,
Chad, are you waiting for somebody to talk?
Yeah, just share what you're doing with school-based programs, how you're staying connected, or what your communication has been, or if you have suspended programming now. Just where are you? And just give everybody an idea what different programs are doing across the state.
This is Lynn at Heart of Iowa Big Brothers Big Sisters in Marshalltown and Grinnell. Basically, we are continuing our mentoring as best as we can, asking them to meet virtually. For the most part, match support has been consistent. We've been trying to connect with them on a regular basis. We're finding that our school-based littles, sometimes those parents forget that they have a mentor because they don't have to interact with them regularly. We have asked, so it's responding back for match support when we're asking for it. Typically, we would just meet with the child at school, but for the most part, I would say that after asking for consent from parents for their school-based child to meet with their big virtual event that have to connect with the executive when they're in just a telephone call. A lot of times kids don't do well having conversation, not part of their experience. So we're doing the best we can.
All right, sorry about that. This is Chad here. My internet on my computer was kind of going in and out, so I'm on my.
I
Now,
think we're all, I
hopefully-
think we're all having problems. I don't know what's going on. I know Lynn was cutting out, and that's what other people are saying too. It's cutting in and out, so.
So maybe there's some updates going on with the Microsoft Teams platform. So, but thank you for staying with us as you're able to.
Well, if you also can tabs, yeah, close your extra tabs on your computer, and that may help with some of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything. I'm not getting it. Usually I get a message that says internet is unstable. I'm not getting that, so I don't know what's going on.
You're
All
in a
right.
sweet spot. So, but we have gotten some comments in, so I can kind of just review some of the things from the chat log. From Colleen, staff is working from home. Matches are not meeting face to face, but they're supporting them via Facebook, email, texting, phone calling as opportunities to stay connected and to continue to share resources as they support the matches. Anna shares they're focusing on getting end of year books and notes of encouragement to their students. So that's good. So the students that are aging out of the program. So we're that's a focus right now for them. Sarah, programming similar to Colleen, so they're just trying to focus on regular match support with parents and mentors this month. We'll also be working to get in touch with each of the mentees via phone. So some kind of enhanced or different match support there. Val talks about working from home, so the staff side of things, and then all matches are school based, and so they're hosting many Zoom video chat meetings every week. So it's been challenging but rewarding at the same time. So yeah, Val, just a different way of how we're doing it, and it does take kind of some different tolls on things. So Delita shares staff working remotely have worked to keep the bigs and littles connected, offering creative ways. Staff doing family outreach and assessing needs, making respective referrals, and connecting to other kind of community resources or online resources. The after school mentoring program is meeting virtually once a week, and they've created a camp in a bag kits in a partnership with their 4-H to distribute. So that's interesting. I think maybe we can maybe hear a little bit more about what that resource looks like. It might be an opportunity for others to make connections in their communities too. So Jessica, kind of similar as stated above, and Jamie, similar things. Kathy shares some of their school-based matches are wanting to get together, and we do allow that outside of school. We also have some college students that are done, so that are done with the program, so kind of working on that, it sounds like. Also a question about, and this kind of gets into the next one, which you can start sharing as well as kind of other topics you want to discuss today or in the future, but anxious to hear what recommendations IMP we might have for summer programming or activities. So just something to think there. Felicia sharing that YSS mentoring is working on surveys and kind of creating that positive closure. So writing letters, Zoom meetings, emails, things like that. They have 3 middle school matches starting, the virtual mentoring portal. So excited to hear about how that goes. Jay said that they've suspended matches, but are giving local chapters the opportunity to do virtual meetings via Zoom. But they're going to have a local coordinator monitor those as well for safety and the communication there. So, and sharing some online communications via portal and their teammates website. They do not allow direct communication between matches at this point. And then they're monitoring kind of what the school's fall startup plans might look like and determine what it looks like come this fall. And then from Kristen, kind of a lot of the same, working from home, they've asked school-based matches that are screened to meet outside the schools. We are encouraging them to stay connected virtually. Staff are reaching out as well. Some of the kids and parents are hard to get in contact, so they're working on that, and they're trying to get their end of year surveys in, completing via phone if they prefer, instead of maybe online. So more of the same. Thank you. Those are kind of gives us a good sense of kind of where the field is at this point.
Does anybody else want to share that didn't type in or didn't speak?
Hi, Mary. This is Zach Smith with Man Up Mentoring. I just joined. Sorry, I was a little late. Are you sharing about what your programs are currently doing?
Yeah, just currently what programming looks like. Yes. And how you do group mentoring in this time, since you do group mentoring.
Sure. So we found that in some ways things are working better. In some ways things are working not so well. But really what we've done is transitioned to virtual groups through Zoom calls using a telehealth protocols. And what we're finding is the biggest issue is trying to get in touch with all the kids. That's been a barrier. It's not the biggest issue. Rather, it's all the kids having access to devices, obviously. And as most of us know, the Des Moines Public Schools made laptops available to most all the students if they wanted them, if they're continuing their education right now. And not all of our kids have gotten those. Part of that might be parent follow through. Some of the kids that have laptops from other districts, such as Urbandale, apparently the youth can't access Zoom through that browser. And so also with older cell phones, or if kids have their own desktops or laptops, we're finding that they're not necessarily able to use some of these video face-to-face apps, if you will. So we're trying to figure out ways to get some more devices that will help them, will ensure that they'll be able to continue. But really, in the past, we would pick kids up and we would take them to programming, and besides picking them up and providing them dinner, everything is pretty much the same with content. And we're going to have all of our programs that we're going by the end of the month. That's the goal. We've started 3, so we should have 5 going by the end of the month, although it might be 4 depending on how many kids end up following through. So it's a lot of help from United Way supporting us right now, and a few other partners just trying to figure out, what are the best apps to use. We've been told Zoom was the best for confidentiality purposes, and you don't have to download the app. You can just use the URL, but then we're running into the problem with the browser piece. If you don't have if your computer can't have an updated or a browser that's able to update or upgrade to a certain level, then you won't be able to use that service. So, and we're also looking at, we've got a few volunteers that have offered to provide food for some of our most needy kids. So we're going to be giving care packages out by the end of next week and continue that process ongoing until it's not needed anymore. But as far as going back into the schools, a specific conversation that I had with my main contact at United Way, this was 2 weeks ago, and I was still kind of the mindset, like, with states starting to open up and just not sure where things were going, that, hey, maybe we will be back in a school in a month or two. And she made it pretty clear that we're probably not going to be back in the schools at least until next school year. And that makes sense to me, not only because of the pandemic, but just because of what the schools are going to have to do for their selves to get everything back up and ready to go, let alone try to work with a program that's inside their school and, coordinating with them. So that's pretty much where we're at.
Thanks, Zach. There's a question, and it interested me too when you said following telehealth protocols for Zoom meetings. If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I thought that telehealth was an app, that it was like an actual service that you would call in on. But telehealth, from my understanding, because we work with a mental health partner, Next Step Counseling, and they're continuing their hybrid groups in coordination with us. And they sent me the document that I need to send to all families. It's basically agreeing to confidentiality, specific protocols for confidentiality, since it's all virtual and audio. And so it's a specific type of protocol that you're just following that ensures HIPAA guide compliance, and that you're following other guidelines. It's not an actual like app that you download and you're calling in on, from my understanding. And that was confusing to me at first. So really, we just have to get verbal, or it can be a text message, just approval from the parent that they're agreeing that their student participate in the programming from a virtual standpoint, that we can guarantee confidentiality on our end, but we can't guarantee confidentiality on their end. So they have to be okay with that. Because, when you're doing virtual stuff, you might have a kid's little sister or friend or whoever might run through the background. And there's a lot of things that can happen like that they just need to be aware of, that it's not as secure as if we were in a building and it was only us there. So,
got it.
Does
Okay.
that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
And I can get anybody the actual document that shows what those protocols are, if anyone wants them.
Yeah, if you want to shoot it my way, and we'll see if there's interest, we could share that further too. Thanks. And then Delita, did you want to talk more about your camp in a bag, since that was something really specific you mentioned that was different, I think?
Big Brothers Big Sisters in Johnson County is a 4-H youth development program as part of Extension, so it was sort of a really natural partnership down the hallway. But we wanted to do something because when we were talking to the parents, and they're struggling with keeping their kids occupied and busy, so our 4-H partners developed at least 6 hours of programming, and then we put the kits together with the supplies and the materials that would support the lesson plans that they put together. In addition, we added Master Gardeners donated some materials and things on planting. So there were pots and seeds. And then we also worked with our partners, Pick a Better Snack, to put together some information about healthy eating. And we did the first round and distributed those. They were geared for more elementary school age. And now we're working on some additional kits for more of the tween adolescent age, and our plans are to those. For those, we were able to get approval from one of our grantors to move some funding to support the supplies for that. So that helped because we didn't necessarily have that in our budget. So that's one thought that you might consider if you're working currently on grants and not able to accomplish the specific deliverables, if you could move some of those dollars to something else like this. And our grantor was supportive of that effort.
Great, thanks. Would you have a list of just those activities, something that you could share with other folks?
Yes, I could do that for sure.
Yeah, that would be great. I know everybody's obviously looking for match activities. I know some programs are doing that kind of thing too, where they send something out, so it's something they could share. So great, thanks so much. So I know some folks mentioned in there some things they wanted to discuss, and I think we have most of those on the agenda already, or I made notes, so we'll make sure that we touch on those later also. And Nicole was going to remind you on the list there some of the resources that we have and some of the things we should be covering with our programs.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, we've already heard a lot of great ideas. We did want to remind programs of some of the resources that you can find on our IMP website right now. So the first one is guidelines for virtual communications, and there is a handout for directed to assist mentors in knowing how to kind of transition to a new style of communication. So there's a lot of helpful tips and etiquette for keeping that relationship strong and being able to connect just through a different format. So you can find that Mary has linked that in the guide here, and it's also on our website. There's also a document for programs that has a variety of tips and suggestions for forms, or like was already mentioned on the call about permission and confidentiality and all of those policy issues that you want to address when you're transitioning from in-person meeting to a virtual format. And then there is also a slide deck for a training for mentors that you can offer and that you can edit and adapt to fit your program. It's just kind of a good place to start and to get some ideas of what you might want to include in that training to help mentors kind of make that switch successfully and to help them feel confident in being able to connect and keep that relationship strong. So please check those out if you haven't already. The next topic we wanted to open up to hear from everyone was about match support. Again, Mary has the link here for the documents. It's called Keeping Relationships Strong. And it has tips, guidelines. It also has lists of potential questions to ask the families, the mentors, and the mentees during your check-in calls for match support. We know that schools really have, at this time, it's become very clear for everyone how essential they are in not only providing that academic education, but really a lifeline to connecting families with food and resources and meeting all kinds of needs right now. So some of the questions might differ a little from before, as far as making sure that you're covering the basics, as far as are there certain needs that have really popped up during this time that weren't there before, and to make sure that obviously mentoring programs aren't going to have all of the resources and the answers, but they can be kind of that front line of communication to get those families connected to what they do need. So we have that resource that you can check out. We also wanted to hear from you if you are doing anything differently as far as your match support, or if you have learned any lessons so far in the past month about that could be helpful to other programs during your match support. So please feel free to unmute if you have something you'd like to add, or you can type in the chat box.
Not the hot topic today, I guess.
Okay.
I know it's just everybody's really ramped up their match support.
Yes. Okay, so the next topic was one that we did hear back that people had on their mind, or maybe had some questions about how other programs are handling the part of their programming as far as engaging with new mentors, and how are they doing interviews and screening for new mentors, and then are you going ahead and making new matches right now, or are you waiting for that? So we'd love to hear from programs on how you are handling engaging with your new mentors.
I'm
We've heard
sorry, what's the question again, Nicole? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're fine. Thanks, Kathy. And thanks for responding to the last question as well in the chat. So we're hearing from programs that there's a large variety in how our programs engaging with new mentors. Are they training them virtually? Are they going ahead and making new matches? Or are they holding off on that at this time? So just again, sharing how your program is handling that. So I'm hearing in.
Hello. Nicole, hear me? This is Colleen.
Yeah, there's a little bit of background noise, but we can hear you.
Okay. So I put in the comments that right when all this started, I have like two mentors, now three, who are basically at the point where they need to do their one-on-one interview and then get trained. And we kind of put things on hold with that. I've been communicating with them via email just to keep them like motivated and that kind of thing. And now two of the ones that were waiting have opted to go to the next phase via Zoom. So we're getting those set up to do their one-on-one interviews over Zoom. And then we as a team have been posting, we're not really actively recruiting right now just because we're telling our matches not to meet and we don't know what a training is going to look like when we can't get together face to face and that kind of thing. But we're posting Thursday activity videos on our Facebook page, and the very last slide of the video has been this little like, if you're interested in mentoring, here's our email and phone number, get a hold of us. So that's what we're doing right now.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Colleen. We also have some people are sharing in the chat. So continuing to communicate via email. Let's see. Conducting some volunteer interviews virtually, and then getting started on attempting some of the parent-child enrollment virtually. So going ahead with that, just finding how to do it in the new virtual format. See, Jamie says we're still accepting applications for mentors. We have been doing interviews, training via FaceTime. So getting them all ready, but then holding off on making the new matches, as most have voiced they would rather meet their mentee in person for the first time versus via FaceTime. So that's great. You're listening to feedback from the mentors and what they're comfortable with. Delita says they're doing targeted recruitment for men and all waiting applicants have been contacted. And we have begun doing virtual interviews with new applicants who are comfortable with that. So again, great, kind of following the lead of what the mentors are comfortable with. And following guidance from Big Brothers Big Sisters America. And case by case for actually starting the match. Let's see. Kristen says they're doing orientation and getting the enrollment paperwork out, and then also contacting references, but holding off on the interviews and match meetings at this time. And Felicia says she did a test run of an online mentor interview training last week. No new matches at this point. Still accepting applications. Okay, great. Yep, there's no right or wrong answers this time. It seems like programs are figuring out what works for them, and then that's great that people are thinking about it case by case and listening to the voices of what their mentors are comfortable with as well as far as going ahead with any matches or not. Great. Thank you everyone for sharing.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, I feel like saying test run and like we've tried this. It's like we're dipping a little toe in the water because obviously there are, you know, new ways we're trying to accomplish some of our, you know, continuing goals, but at the same time, not throwing out protocols and, you know, about obviously still following screening and, you know, your match protocol and all of those things. But it is the last thing we're going to talk about is new normal, you know, and what's this going to look like? You know, we're probably going to be back in a situation like this again in the fall or at some point. We shouldn't be surprised whether it's this or if there's going to be some mutation and some other kind of an outbreak too. So what, you know, how can we do this differently? Or if things open up a little bit this summer, you know, are we comfortable, you know, with proper protocol with masks and, you know, 6 feet distancing that we would, you know, interview some people in person as well? Or should we be trying to, like, you know, navigate, you know, that we can feel comfortable doing online interviews and do all those reference checks and that, and then just do a lot more match support and monitoring, you know, as we launch those matches too. So just looking at that. Kathy asked a question, if people doing trainings, do mail the mentors some written material prior to the training that you're doing online? How are people sharing, like, yeah, like a mentor handbook or training materials that you would have? Yes, you could answer that in the chat and we'll look for answers for you there, Kathy, okay? So just a couple things that have come up in conversations with other programs that some folks are doing a mentor meetings as a group, like a Zoom chat, a Zoom call with all of their mentors. And I love that idea in some format, just a way for mentors to share, you know, how things are going with their matches and probably share ideas for, you know, activities or things that they're doing on their calls too, because it is a different format for them. So just throwing that out there that you might offer that for folks. Again, this might be a little bit more accessible for people as they're used to getting on all kinds of calls right now, and that you're not asking them to come out and meet at a certain time with you know, just clear the schedule and have to travel. They can just hop on their phone and share ideas there. Another benefit folks have seen is that with schools posting a lot of assignments and that mentors can have access to what a child is actually doing in their schoolwork. Not that they're the tutor, but it just gives them then some of that insight about what they're actually doing to talk with them more about that, or to talk about what challenges or struggles they might be having. We always do look at, you know, mentoring benefiting academic performance. Again, not that they're the tutors, but this provides some additional insight just with all the schools having the online lessons as well. Just a little reminder, I keep saying this to programs, making sure that you're making the case, always reminding people how important you are, that you provide these social connections all of the time, and just make sure that your school knows that you're doing that. I know that I think Val is on, Val at Independence, and indicated to me that they're tracking, her school district is tracking contact with students, and so she was making sure she was getting, you know, the mentoring program was getting counted for having the contact for students. Val, did you have more you wanted to say about that, or did I reflect that accurately?
Well, Mary, I think you said it right when you said make sure that the schools are aware you're out there. You know, I'm privileged because I'm within the school, but I think they forget we're there, especially when they're not seeing us or hearing from us. So I reached out to the curriculum director that's doing all the homework on the website and made sure she knew that we're contacting X number of kids every week. So every Friday I report to her how many, so they know that some of the students that maybe are not responding to the homework, they at least know we're touching base with them. Last week we had a situation where the student has been having a Zoom meeting with us every week, and she didn't have her mentor meeting. She didn't respond to the email. She didn't respond to my text. I ended up calling her dad at work, and she had been spending time with her grandma, who I didn't have her phone number, but it was good check-in for her. She's a high school student, a freshman this coming year, and she's struggled a lot. So it's just a good check-in that we know she was okay. because she consistently had responded. So all of a sudden, after 5 weeks, she didn't respond to anybody. So, those kind of things. I think one of our last calls, they talked about DHS having a low count right now. Well, these kind of things are just really important so the school knows, these 5 kids did check in with somebody this week, whether it was their teacher or me or, their mentor, someone. So I just found that very valuable, especially last week when we found that we had that happen.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Val. And so that's what, I mean, you said your school district is tracking that and asking for that, but if they're not, I think it's important for us just to put ourselves out there and let districts know, like, these are the contacts that we're having with kids, because you've probably seen this all over the place. Everyone's stressed out, parents are stressed out, teachers are stressed out, kids are stressed out about not keeping up with the work. And I've heard so many educators say, you know what, we'll figure this out when we come back together. We'll figure out the academics. Right now, kids just need to know that people care about them. So you guys do that all the time. So just remind folks that you're doing that. And also, depending on your partnership with schools too, that they can be a resource to help find those. If you're having a hard time connecting with the family or with the youth, perhaps they could help you with that connection as well. So unfortunately, the next topic is closure and making sure that we're being mindful of closures at this time. So a lot of different areas to cover. Nicole, are you going to talk a little bit about that? You're muted though, still.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
To nobody. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we just wanted to talk about how closure is still a really important part of all of the relationships and mentoring relationships. So thinking about how can we help facilitate those a healthy closure for matches that are ending. If it's the end of the school year and the time where you are usually doing some closures. If you have college students that were your mentors that are moving on, then you're also going to have closure there. Another thing to think about is seniors in high school that are moving on, and how you want to help facilitate what comes next as far as if they're going to have contact with their mentors after graduation. And then also definitely want to celebrate. And part of closure is thinking about the positive parts of the relationship and having a strength-based message and celebrating some of the memories. So we know that some programs have plans to do some virtual celebrations or kind of end meetings where mentors can share positive memories, photos, messages for the mentees. Is there any program that is planning kind of an end of the year virtual celebration that would want to share what they're doing?
This is Val in Independence. I'm trying to get a Zoom party set up for next Thursday. I have an invitation that's ready to go out. It says "Friendship Knows No Distance." Join us for an out of this world virtual party. And I think we're going to add. I'm still working on final details, but something about wear a goofy hat or something that's out of this world that you want to share. What have you gotten? What have you enjoyed about the Zoom? Something that's interactive. There's so many things out there right now with virtual parties, but I want it to be somehow interactive between the mentors and the students. They've done really well at communicating through this time. And so, we've had some do mailings, some, as I've mentioned earlier, the Zoom meetings, but I thought friendship knows no distance, I thought was kind of appropriate with the coronavirus.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Val. Anybody else have any plans in the works?
Or how are you closing your matches now at the end of the school year?
So this is Karen with Everybody Wins Iowa, and I think Anna put it in the chat earlier. we're really focused right now on doing closure with those students that are transitioning into middle school or junior high school. And so we surveyed the mentors and we had them send kind of a message of encouragement, and we're going to put those in with their giveaway book for the end of the school year and send those out to those students. We're in 9 different school districts in central Iowa, and it's been challenging because we have not kept good data for the student, parent, and guardian contact information. And I think primarily because of the schools being so overwhelmed, they basically have said, we can't help you. And so a lot of the emails we are finding are not valid because they're not legible on our enrollment form. So we're really finding a huge need to revamp a lot of our programming and our resources and our enrollment forms and all that good stuff too.
Great, thanks for sharing. In the chat, we have Kristen shared they sent certificates to the high school bags for the school to add to their award packets, and then hoping to have a pizza party this summer, fingers crossed. Chad had the suggestion of a guest speaker for a virtual graduation or closure event, or a recorded video to post on social media. That's a great idea. Kind of bring in the celebration aspect.
And I just watched the graduation that John Krasinski did for some good news last night. And what he did for graduation speakers, instead of having a speaker, graduates could ask someone. They ended up being celebrities, of course, ask them for some advice. But that might be a fun activity too. It's just as sending forth if you're doing something with seniors, or I know you just mentioned, Karen, just students moving on to the next level. I think for seniors too, that there's an option there to whatever your closure transition to beyond match in your program. If you allow them to have contact outside of the program, it just might be accelerated. And actually, they're probably wrapping up right now anyway. But they could move to that phase too, so that you close the match with your program. But then they can share their contact information. They're going to continue to be in contact anyway, but they could offer support through phone calls and texts and other things that maybe don't allow in the program.
Great. Does anyone have any concerns or issues that they're thinking about closure that we haven't brought up that you want to throw out to the group? Okay, well, if you do come up with great ideas for how you are going to celebrate or other ideas for closure in the future, please share them with us so we can share those out as well.
And so then the next part is just thinking, I know some programs are looking at whether it makes sense for them to continue school-based matches during the summer. And I didn't know if anybody's doing this even with, college students too, because if they are going to be returning next year, they would be, continuing their match. They basically wouldn't have met with their matches for like over 6 months. Is anybody thinking about continuing any programming during the summer with their school-based matches? Is that a no from everyone, and we're all just looking at closure right now? A couple other things, I guess, around the closure too. A couple people had mentioned like they have the end of the year surveys they're trying to complete, and I know that can be a challenge. If it's some are mailing and some know they're going to probably have to pick them up too, or that they're trying to send them out electronically and hope that they can get some response. But I know that's for reporting purposes for different grants and things. They're looking at different ways to get surveys to matches. And the other thing I guess we'll look at, and that could be talking about our new normal too, is that there are the virtual platforms available from Mentor National. And originally the one was only for 13 and up, and now there's one for 12 and under as well. And looking at that, it may not make sense, your whole program's not going to shift to that, but maybe that is something that you think that, oh, the college students, that makes sense for them to continue with the match that way. Or I think Felicia's kind of trying it out, trial run with a few matches too. But looking at not knowing what fall is going to look like, and if we're going to be back in this situation, again, not that you're all moving to virtual mentoring, but would it make sense to have that kind of a backup if we get at this place again? Let's say school-based matches are screened, so the ability to connect over the summer continue, and some will be, Felicia said they're doing the virtual mentoring through June. A few of them want to get together when they're able to. Kathy says, yeah, I got that. Like that, you're looking at closure for the school year, but maybe it's not, so they can meet when it's actually safe. Val's asking through the end of the year survey, and I know some of you, if you're working at the school, that it might be getting permissions and making sure that's okay with the schools to do that. Small Google Hangout groups for match activities, and folks are starting to look at the virtual portals as well. The ones that choose to meet at the school, staff will do check-ins over the summer. Oh, and hopefully meet them in the fall too. So actually going to meet at the school, Kristen, then, if that's able?
Yeah, in the fall, if we're able to go back to normal,
yeah,
they'll continue to meet. Some of these matches have been doing this for 3 or 4 years,
yeah,
where they only meet during the academic year. And then we try to host an activity in the summer that we invite the bigs and the littles to, that they would be able to see each other outside of the school setting if they do not choose to be what we call our site-based plus program.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, and I think that that's something that everyone could consider, is even hosting a couple group activities in the summer, just even if you're not going to have any other programming, and regardless that school would be out normally for kids, whatever, but just think that they're going to be not involved in a lot of activities for a while still, and not having a lot of connections. So yeah, just considering looking at what you could do to provide some contact for your matches still during the summer. Some great options that people are looking at. So I just put on there the new normal, and I brought this up already. Just looking at what things might look at fall. It's anybody's guess, but we shouldn't be surprised if it looks like this again. So couple things we talked about, just looking at, are we going to stop recruiting new mentors and onboarding them and launching new matches, or do we need to look at some new protocols for that? And do we want to look at different ways to virtually connect, so we have this ready to go? And maybe that's going to be a new part of onboarding, is like, if we have some interruption like this, we would like you to use X platform or Y platform, or you're going to be using Zoom meetings or whatever it might be, just so folks know that everybody understands this very real possibility right now after they're living in this at the moment. So are there other concerns that people are looking at, on down the line, or are we just starting to think about that? Because I know we're still just in the throes of what this looks like now, and hoping very soon that we can all be out again and seeing each other in real time. But we also have to think that we might be back in the situation again. So I don't know if anyone's doing planning as a program or organization, or have other concerns about being right back here again. Or have I just totally depressed you thinking about that, when you're like thinking, hey, we're getting things going right now. This is going well. Well, let's end on a positive note. With all the great things you're doing, I'm just looking back in this chat and everybody sharing all the things that you're doing and giving yourselves credit, and I hope you can stop and think that you're still providing these services, these essential service to these young people and keeping them connected with their mentors. And as much as we have all these struggles and certainly challenged at this time for you doing your work remotely and connecting your matches remotely, but give yourself a pat on the back for continuing to do this. And it truly is just so important for young people to have these connections. Yeah, the unknown is the challenge. If we could just have that magic ball, and yeah, it's just, you know, maybe we do have some time now. Hopefully, we think maybe some of these things will be easing up, and maybe it'll be safe and healthy to be out in public again. But have some time to be thinking about it. So yeah, Kathy asked about protocols, recommendations. And sure, yeah, we could look at recommendations. And I know that we're looking at that. Mentor Nationally too actually is just looking at affiliates like top 5 needs and what they need to get out to programs. So that, yeah, we're happy to provide, as we have with these very, you know, this different areas of the elements, just provide some guidelines. Obviously they're not directives and, you know, can't tell you what not do, but you know, what might be some guidelines as we look to future planning. Yeah, and again, folks have been looking at it. Anna just added another thing that Everybody Wins is looking at as well. So one more thing that wasn't out when I sent the newsletter out, I added to the bottom, and I think this is just really important for all of our matches, you know, especially school-based too, thinking about this, the collaborative webinar this month, which is next Thursday, the 21st, is on mental health, which I think, you know, mentoring programs are always an essential support for mental health for young people too. So I think that's would be a really high interest for our programs too. So just want to put that out there for you. And Sarah, I'm just reading your comment too. So is there anything that we haven't discussed, it's pressing, or you'd like to hear some ideas from other folks on the call that you haven't had a chance to ask yet, or didn't get answered that you already posed? Thanks, Chad, for posting the webinar link, and I'll send that out in the notes as well. I think that would make sense. I don't know what it's going to look like though for your work schedule and stuff. I think it makes sense, like going back to school in fall, if we did another schools call and looking at what folks are looking like as they continue back, or if you could let me know if it makes sense that you want to touch base right at the end of the school year or not. There was really a great response to specifically addressing the school-based challenges. So yeah, let me know if there are specific things for school-based programs still you'd like to hear about. I know we have a suggestion we're looking at, you know, looking ahead in fall. So be in touch. We'll schedule something again, depending on what makes sense for schedules. We can send out and see what folks want. And I know a couple people are going to send some resources, so I'll look for those and I'll send out the link. Excuse me, the recording, and then the document that's up here with the links in it for all the other information. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Thanks so much for sharing all of your information with other programs too. Keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.